Career versus destiny. All my life I've loved talking with people and listening to them tell their stories. Elders especially, I would ask, what happened to you? What has your life been like? How did you get through? And they would look at me, delighted that they had a willing ear, and they'd launch in, regaling me with stories of courage, adventure, and great-heartedness. I never get tired of listening to them drop into the mystery of their lives. It's like tracking spirit. For instance, it amazed me to hear how a farm boy in Ohio just up and left one day, hitched a ride to the sea, and worked on ships as he traveled all over the world. His life events led him to meet a man who mentored him. He ended up studying engineering in Italy, and he became the top international recognized engineer. I loved hearing how he fought for fair wages and won, despite enormous resistance. I wondered what prompted him to leave the farmhouse that day. What led him to that boat where he met the mentor for his life work? What voice called to him? And another story. A woman I'll call Shannon described her father as an angel. And I said, "Tell me about him." She told me a wonderful tale set in the 1950s. Her mother, Meg, had been married twice to very abusive men. She had a child with each husband. She divorced each of the men and eventually became a single mother with 2 children to raise. When she met Jim, she knew he was different. They fell in love and married, and he adopted the 2 children as his own. When she was 8 months pregnant with Shannon, her abdomen swelled gigantically with their baby. Jim and Meg would meet at bars, pretending to be strangers. She would order a drink for that gentleman down the bar. He would thank her and ask her to dance, which they did with her distended belly pushing up between them. They loved each other. Meg was in her teens when she first married and had children. She did not know how to raise a child, keep house, or cook. And Jim taught her how to speak to children, what to do and what not to do. He taught her how to dress, how to cook, how to balance a check register, keep account of her own money, and tend the house well for her children. He took her under his wing and taught her the basic social skills she had never had the chance to learn. He adored her, and she adored him. It was a match made in heaven. Jim served as an officer in the Air Force. Lately, he had taken on the military when he discovered faulty mechanisms in the aircraft that would lead to plane crashes if not corrected. He was raising hell because the men were in danger. He was making trouble for himself, but he continued. One night, Meg dreamt that he died in a plane crash, and she awoke sobbing, begging him not to go on any more flights. But how could he do that? He was in the Air Force. He told her not to worry, everything would be fine. Nevertheless, he made out a will, he went through all the bills, and he papered clip notes to each one. In case anything ever happens to me, he said, do this marked number 1 first, this marked number 2 second, and so on. He led her through it step by step. A few months later, Jim went up in a chopper with 4 men. He was assigned to the right-hand position, riding shotgun. With him was a sergeant, Otto, who disliked Jim intensely and tried every chance he got to needle, provoke, and bully him. Jim did not let Otto bother him. The sergeant was sitting behind the pilot. The helicopter took off, hovering about 10 feet from the ground, and just before its final sweep up, Jim yelled, "Hey, stop the chopper, set it down." The pilot landed the craft. Jim said he wanted to change seats with Otto, so they did, and then the helicopter took off again. Sometime during that flight, the faulty machinery failed. and the chopper crashed. The only person killed was the one sitting directly behind the pilot, Jim. This is a true story. My heart exploded with love and my eyes filled with tears as Shannon shared it with me. That is a mystery play. Jim came into Meg's life, loved her, taught her how to be a woman and a mother. He was fighting with the Air Force to replace the faulty machinery because men were being placed in danger. After hearing Meg's premonition dream, Jim could have tried to avoid what the dream foretold. He knew it unconsciously, what was going to happen, and he spent time arranging the family affairs and instructing Meg one last time in how to care for them. Then he switched seats with a sergeant, a man who had been out to get him. That is an act of love. It's my belief that Jim's soul was presented a choice. He could stay in his seat and live, continue to be with his wife and children, or save the life of an enemy and die for a cause he believed in, the safety of his men. He could have avoided death, but he chose not to. Do you think Sergeant Otto got it? That Jim gave his life for him? What did Otto do with that? How did that change him? Jim was an angel. That's what we would call the life of Christ consciousness in action. We usually don't know what's going to happen in our lives. The human heart has tremendous courage. And many times this courage is activated when we help others. While we can't say whether Jim made the right or wrong decision in that helicopter, we can know that he made a decision based on love.